some really challenging weathers. I see some snowflakes, but there's not a prediction that it's going to be anything of substance. I'm glad everybody's been able to be safe and sound in all of this. With that, we do not have a quorum and so cannot approve participation remotely from our chair, but we will recognize and welcome participation from our chair, Mr. Sean Davis.
Thank you, Doc. And I don't know if there's anything necessarily to be voted on. But it's always important to have a quorum. But this is, I guess, we could, just understand that this might be something that the Finance Committee needs to look at and then send it to the full commission. But by way of background, to use a cliche, what we had looked at was some of our reserves. Everybody remembers what happened earlier in 2025 through those first couple of months of 2025. Then we had a government shutdown. We had all of those types of things. And what we had looked at was, what do our reserves look like, and what might that mean for PlanRVA to have to dip into reserves, and what would the longevity be, and so on and so forth. And kind of what we came up with the finance team, Lauren, Martha, and Lauren's team, is kind of settled in on a 6-month reserve policy. And at this point, it would be, our initial thoughts are to be 50% cash, 50% receivables. Recognizing that may change at some point, and we'll kind of get down to the scientific determination at some point in the future on what's healthy and what looks right. But right now, we'll start with the 50-50 and count those towards reserves.
Chair Davis.
Yes, ma'am.
What I want to acknowledge, if I could just press pause, I don't want to lose that. Sure. Discussion you're having.
Yes, ma'am.
But to just acknowledge for our minutes that because we don't have quorum, we won't be able to decision, but we will be able to discuss. And to your point, for future, we can bring this back. We, in terms of the agenda, I just want to not proceed consistent with how our chair would, by following the agenda and then coming to that item.
I'm sorry.
There is, we don't have any amendments to the agenda, correct?
Correct.
I have none.
Okay. No open public comments?
No open public comment.
And we do have approval of November 5th minutes, but we cannot approve. We could review or wait until the next meeting to take those to there for review and approval, if that's okay, Chair.
I'm fine with that. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, then we're on to the financial updates. But
do you want to sort of reverse them?
Yeah, I would like to, if it's okay, go back to Chair Davis's comments, and then we'll come to Ms. Shepherd's financial management system update, preliminary December 31, 2025 financials, and strategic financial planning. So you and Chair Davis now.
Sure. Chair Davis, did you want to continue your comments?
Thank you. Yes. So this is a good opening. So with that, part of the strategic plan was to figure out what we needed in reserves.
Okay.
And the amount and how long would that take us. And I believe we've kind of settled on 6 months, and I can explain that in a little bit of detail, but it'll be brief. So the idea is, and Dr. Newbell, one of the things I talked about is I was looking at a calendar year, and I know that can get a little confusing as we work with fiscal years in this realm. But by July of next year, July 1, I feel like we should really be on that mark to be at 6 months, and then the last 6 months of 2027 would just be kind of executing that plan.
Okay.
So some folks may say, well, how did you get to 6 months? And I think this is the idea. First of all, having too much cash in reserves doesn't doesn't work for us. There's really no point in it, and it could tie up a lot of cash that we would need, for operational needs. So we are a receivables kind of organization, and so I think it's appropriate to start at the 50-50 with that. And then if we had to go past 6 months using, reserves, a large portion and drawing down on those, there would be other issues that wouldn't be isolated to PlanRVA, right? If we were in that mode of having to really use reserves, I think we would see other issues throughout the region, whether it was shutdowns, whether it was grants just not going to come in. So at some point, I think more than 6 months would be too much of an insurance policy from a strategic financial standpoint, cash flow, all of that. And again, if we were having to use more than 6 months to keep us moving, folks would be, you know, they'd be very concerned about what was happening back in the home front too. Something catastrophic would happen. So it doesn't seem to be smart to have, kind of be insurance poor, if you will. So we've looked at identifying, what would reserves pay for, and it seems like we've kind of settled on that 6 months. Kind of keep the lights on, pay key employees. If we had to front load something that, if a grant came in late, or we were unsure of that, like what happened when we had all of those issues in the early part of 2025. So Lauren has come up with a really good plan, and that would be one that, again, I know we can't take a vote, but that I think we should strongly consider at some point reviewing, and when we do find ourselves in a meeting with the quorum, strongly consider sending that to the full commission for approval. But it's very strategic. I just wanted to kind of let you know where we got the math. The last thing I'll say is we don't know if 50-50 is right. At some point, maybe, receivables, maybe they could be at 60-40, or, like I told Lauren, 58-42. But this is the best hypothesis we have now, is to say 50-50 cash and receivables. So that's my intro, and I'll turn it over, with your permission, Dr. Newbill, to Lauren.
Absolutely, thank you.
Thank you, Chair, Mr. Davis. So I do have a slide that talks through some of the more detailed numbers of what he just described. But if you'll allow me, I want to give you a little context before we dig into that slide, because we'll look at the balance sheet, our current balance sheet, and it'll just give a little more context before we look into those details of what that 50-50 split looks like. I'm really excited about our financial management system, which is also got a lot of the strategic financial, that strategy is really weaved into that financial management system. So if you're both okay, if we can talk through some of those other things before we get to that reserve slide. Okay, so our most recent committee meeting was in early November, exactly 1 week before the end of the 2025 shutdown. And we had that really good conversation about the need for financial strategy and outlook. You had brought up, Dr. Newbill, preparing and anticipating for the impact of federal shutdowns, which is clearly very relevant this week, especially. Mr. Spoonhauer had talked about what would our exit strategy be if a grant was eliminated or paused. And so, as Mr. Davis said, Ms. Schickel and I have been working closely with him over the last few months to prioritize different strategic financial planning opportunities, reserves being that really big one we want to focus on first. But it feels like we really also need to talk about that financial management system, because so much of our strategy is embedded there. And so, as a reminder, that system is called JAMIS, and I will once again shout out our incredible cross-functional team supporting the implementation. We received some really nice compliments from the vendor around how our staff took ownership of really learning the system every step of the way. And so taking the time to create our own more personalized user documentation for every critical process, so that when the vendor isn't here holding our hand, we know really well how to use the system and we're comfortable with it. We have met every critical deadline and milestone to date. We're reflecting a few of those on this slide. So as of Jan 1, staff are entering their time in the new system, and we're processing that labor and payroll in the new system as well. Our UPWP data migration is complete. That's moving our historical costs for our largest transportation grants from our old documentation and systems over to our new system, and then preparing and processing that second quarter invoice for our largest grant. That has all been done in the new system. AP, or accounts payable, is being processed in the new system, and we're already utilizing the recruiting functionality to backfill an open position. We do have an active job posting right now, accepting applications through the system. We are not yet done. We still have to bring over the historical cost data for other grants outside of the big transportation awards. We're working to implement NACHA functionality, which is a more efficient way of processing our electronic payments or our ACH payments, where we're able to upload a file from the system directly to our bank rather than entering those payments manually. We have another, I'd say 4 to 6 weeks of head down, digging into reporting and forecasting functionality once all the data is in, and then training the rest of the staff, who are doing really well with what we've trained them on so far, primarily that timekeeping. In terms of those larger strategic questions and how the strategy solutions for those are weaved into the system, Jameis will provide faster visibility into what's at risk. So we'll be able to quickly quantify exposure if federal or other funding is paused or terminated. So again, mentioned timekeeping is embedded in the system. We can run a report today on costs, including labor, which is our biggest cost, through yesterday's activity. So we can very quickly pivot and redeploy staff where it makes sense when needed. So that's opposed to our old system, where it took about a month to close the previous month's activity. And so any planning or analysis that we were doing, to form a plan, was already missing about a month's worth of activity because of the delayed reporting. Jameis will also allow us to activate spending controls through our accounts payable workflows and approvals, so that we can really clearly identify invoices or new contracts tied to vulnerable funding or funding that's at risk, and then reduce the risk of incurring costs that would later become not reimbursable. We mentioned at our last meeting the ability to code revenue and expenses to our regional vision and key imperatives. So for every dollar flowing through the agency, we'll be able to identify and report how it ties back to our strategy, the themes on that board, and where we might have opportunities to adjust the mix of those strategic themes, and loop in our incredible grant specialist, Emily Williams, to research grant opportunities that further deliver on the board's intentions. I'm going to pause there. Any questions on the financial management system?
Just really quick, and I'm sure it's captured in there, if the accounts receivable,
Yes.
They are delineated in that a separate amount or just across?
It's embedded in there.
Okay.
Yep, accounts receivable is embedded in there. And a great segue, we can jump over to that balance sheet, which is in your packet. I'll bring it up on the screen as well. Now this is a QuickBooks balance sheet. Okay. So again, these materials are as of December 31st. So we were still in QuickBooks then. So the formatting is still that old format. Bear with me, I'll bring that up on the screen as well, so you can see that as well, Mr. Davis.
Thanks.
Can you see the balance sheet right now, Mr. Davis, on the screen? Are you able to see that?
I don't see the balance sheet.
Bear with me.
And Mr. Davis, I tried to email you the information, but I got a notification that it was blocked by the recipient. So just a heads up, sometimes it happens.
Yeah, it's funny. It's interesting you say. I saw that on another email today. I haven't seen one in years, and I saw that on another email today. So thank you.
Yeah, so just a heads up. I know it happens with us periodically too. Sometimes it resolves itself, but not sure.
So this is a little bit why I wanted to look at these before we got into those more detailed reserve, the detailed reserve conversation, because I wanted to give you a snapshot of where we are right now. Cash and receivables are in great shape right now. The largest or the first box that you can see on my screen is total for bank accounts, which is our operating cash in Truist. That's the 838,000. And then our 211,000 in LGRP, that local government investment pool. So those are our invested assets, what you might think of as reserves right now. We also have accounts receivable, that second box of just under 1.5 million. And then if you go down a little bit further, there's a third box with due from CBTA. Those are also receivables. We'll have our formatting a little bit cleaner in the new system. This is the reason those are broken out with CBTA. It's just a formatting issue in QuickBooks. So we are, as of December 31, we hold over $1 million in cash and investments and 1.7 million total in receivables. So just keep that snapshot in mind as we get back to that reserves conversation in a moment. So in terms of our budget to actuals, our annualized projected revenues are 13% above budget, primarily due to additional grants awarded after the budget was approved and some presentation changes around funding CBTA exclusive staff. We talked a little bit about that at our last meeting, and that's just really incorporating Chet and Mo as PlanRVA staff in our operating budget, and then those offsetting expenses as well. So annualized projected expenses are 10% above budget, primarily due to offsets of both of those bullets above. A projected surplus is likely, in part due to some adjustments after filling of open positions, and we will return to the committee with an updated projection during the fiscal year. Okay, so now I'm gonna go over to that reserve
Can I ask a
slide.
question?
Sure, of course, please.
We capture the interest earned on all of the funds, and presumably that gives Martha some flexibility to address some things
Is that interest on sort of our cash balances?
on any cash that comes in.
So we're restricted on the amount of earnings we can have from interest, particularly
really?
particularly when depending on the timing of the flow of the funds. So that's why we really leverage that local government investment pool to be able to be within the restrictions that are bestowed upon us for interest earnings.
Okay,
I think that there, as part of when Mr. Spoonhour outlined that strategy of boosting the mix of cash reserves to receivables, I think we would be in a better position in the future to maybe purchase some long-term CDs or other better yield investments once we increase that mix of actual cash that is truly ours and no longer retains the federal funding identity. And so, much like a locality invests its reserves and then, benefits from, in some years, pretty significant earnings, I think we would be in a better position to do that.
okay, that's,
So we're not allowed to
Sure.
earn, basically, we're not allowed to earn interest and retain that earned interest on federal funds.
okay, but rest all
Once
the
we've
others.
been reimbursed for our expenses, that money translates to be our money. And so then we would be able to invest it how we would see fit. And so that would enable us to be able to better maximize investment opportunities.
What about philanthropic funds, corporate and foundation,
That,
as
yeah,
well as local
yeah.
and state? Can we,
We could for the,
Right.
particularly for the private funding. And so this is becoming more a relevant conversation because in previous fiscal years, the mix of private money was so minimal, if at all. But now that that mix is growing, I think it's the right question to ask.
Good question.
more to come?
Yes. And just a little more context as we think about not relying so much on our local funding to float ourselves. We could, in theory, have those funds invested and we would be able to earn interest on those funds.
Well, even just the interest, putting them in an account and the interest earned, and then being able to utilize that.
Yeah,
I
I think currently, I mean, we're probably earning about $5,000 in interest. a
Yeah,
year.
it's
I mean,
not
a pretty-
much.
A year?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's not very.
it's,
much.
I mean, it's
Okay.
under 10, yeah, I mean, it's an amount so nominal, we don't budget for it. And
Oh,
it's
okay.
very
I
seldom
was
is an
thinking we
impact.
were a
But
little
that's
higher,
in
but
part because of our cash mix.
gotcha.
So, I mean, again, it's, you know,
In the
yeah, Lauren,
future,
if you
we-
wanna walk that through, because I think that that's really where what Mr. Davis said at the beginning of the meeting about shifting that ratio could be really beneficial.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so as Mr. Davis mentioned, we really want to focus on those core operating costs. Like what would we want to really, when we think about reserves, what do we really want to think about? And that's people. Our largest expense is labor, occupancy, so paying our building lease and any minimum facilities requirements, and technology, so ensuring it stays up to date and reliable so that we can continue working. And if you took our annual operating budget and added those three line items, we are initially looking at a 3-month total of about 1.06 million. And so if our target is 50% cash and 50% receivables, we need to adjust our mix. So I'm gonna draw your attention to that pie chart in the top right. And that's pulling in those dollars that we just looked at on the balance sheet. And so we've got a mix right now of reserve receivables and reserve cash and operating receivables and operating cash. And we reasonably have about 3 months of reserves right now, about 1.06 million in reserve assets. But the mix is about 12% cash to 88% receivables. And so if you look at that bottom right bar chart, you can see our current mix on the left and where we want to get to on the right. And again, that target of 50-50 is an educated, strategic estimate right now. As Mr. Davis mentioned, that mix may change based on the current environment as we dig into our as we further lean into our financial management system and we're able to invoice more frequently and turn those receivables into cash more frequently, that mix may change. And we will stay in contact with the committee as we keep having those discussions.
At any time, have we considered or would we consider a line of credit?
We have talked a little bit about that, and we want to continue thinking about that with the committee.
Okay.
Okay, so yes, we did, and I'll just tell you, Dr. Newbill, this first I heard Lauren says she would continue to talk about it, and I say that somewhat in jest. They did bring that to me, and I said, I don't think that I could get behind. I mean, it's up to the entire finance committee. I don't think I could get behind recommending a line of credit. One, I think it would draw a lot of questions. So what do you need it for? Why are you here? And if our funding is down and we're not getting paid and we've got a line of credit, we've got debt service, we've got all of these types of things. That's really what this strategic plan is for, is to keep us from being in a line of credit. I think some localities would absolutely it'd throw a red flag up. And I don't know for this organization if a line of credit works. I know some others have, other organizations do, but I go back to what Lauren was talking about, like redeploying our human resources, where we're not a month behind. I mean, that's just huge for us, is if we could move somebody into something that's billable or whatever. But a line of credit, I think in an organization like this, and I know there could be differing views, could highlight that maybe there's some fiscal matters that could be problematic because of the nature of this organization. So, I mean, obviously that's for the full committee to discuss. I did speak with Chair Stewart about it and told her my opinion. I've had a couple of discussions, but yes, to answer your question, and I think it's pertinent, there were discussions about that, but I think we'd be hard pressed to try to get the full commission to hear that and especially, and I say this with no hubris, especially if some folks maintain the position that I have about lines of credit with regard to organizations like this, I'd be vocal just to make folks aware of what I would see. But yes, there were discussions. We just don't feel like we may have to move forward on that
Sure.
if we put this strategic plan in place. So.
I see lines of credit as bridge between receipt and commitment of grants. I don't see it as an ongoing, if you're using your line of credit, we're in trouble. From my perspective, as opposed,
for
it's
bridging
more
and
of a bridge. You've gotten a commitment, funding's coming, but you want to get things underway. And so it would be paid off once that grants come in, but it wouldn't be just to, so yes, I hear you. So more to come.
And
Good.
I said I wasn't going to bring this term up in this meeting, but let's just say that we ended up with a line of credit and we're saying, okay, we're waiting on this, that, and the other. And then one of our major grants gets doged, right? I said I was going to not use that term, but dealing with, and if that goes away, now I'm sitting there with a line of credit that's been extended. We're using that. That could be catastrophic at some point because again, it's somewhat volatile right now, our funding. I mean, right now it seems like it's smooth, but but I was on the phone with Senator Warner the other day, I don't know, Thursday or Friday or whatever, and these guys are trying. These folks up there are trying to avoid another shutdown again. You're like, man, are you serious? Like, come on, man. So yeah,
I hear you. Okay.
Thank you for that additional context, Mr. Davis.
yes, ma'am. Thank you.
So as he mentioned, by
Mhm.
focusing on reserves and liquidity and a mix of receivables and cash, we're setting ourselves up for stability
Mhm.
and sustainability so we can continue our operations effectively. Do you want to have more discussion on reserves? Any other questions or?
I think it's important to have reserves as well. And, so I'm really pleased that we've been looking at this strategically in terms of the percent and, and we'll have a plan of action for how to get there. So, yeah.
Yeah, and Lauren's done a lot of work. They're exacerbated by the fact that she had to work with me. So this probably could have been done a lot quicker if somebody else was involved. But I know I've frustrated some efforts from time to time with my questions and my input. But she's done a really, really good job getting this done and getting the presentation to where we are now. Because the presentation just shows what the plan would be. That's just the lights and the mirrors and all the fancy stuff. It really just highlights what the actual plan is going to be that we hopefully will be able to execute.
Well, I'm just really appreciative of the work. I think that in the context of everything going on in this country, we would be negligent if we did not have a strategic plan and we're strategically thinking about the organization and its funding and reserve. So I'm very appreciative. Sean, thank you. Certainly Lauren and staff. So yeah, it's too much. Yeah.
So we'll plan to come back to the committee with a little bit more context of how we plan to meet some of these targets. We wanted to make sure that the committee felt comfortable with the plan and the targets at this point. But as mentioned, we are likely going to have some surplus this fiscal year, and we would plan to use those to start building those reserves. We're also, as I mentioned, moving towards more frequent invoicing, so we'll be able to turn those receivables into cash sooner. And so as we think about this mix, it will, through the financial management system in part, we'll be able to adjust some of that mix with our normal operations.
Okay. And we're of course counting back office supports that we can charge administratively, and so that helps us in terms of going into our reserve pocket, I'm assuming.
In terms of offering services to.
Yes, like CBTA.
Yes.
And
Yep.
I think that's the only one, probably the largest one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's our sort of main customer right now
Right,
who's
okay.
utilizing those services. Yes. But that's certainly an opportunity we can talk about
Yeah.
expanding.
And I mean, I'll just add the timing of this conversation is pretty crucial to next fiscal
Yes.
year's budget planning.
Yes.
So that when we head into next fiscal year, we're to the extent possible, actually programming revenue that we're able to
Mhm.
as a plan to transfer to reserves, which is a different budgeting approach than we have taken in previous fiscal years.
Thank you. I appreciate the forethought and thinking on this. We can't wait. Now is more than the time, so. Yes.
That's all I have in terms of materials.
I just want to say, it's been a yo woman's effort on this software implementation. You all have just done a fantastic job of this. I mean, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for trusting us to do it. It's been a big undertaking. Thank you
Mhm.
for.
That was,
Right.
that was all my idea, Dr. Newbill.
That was
one
your
of the-
idea?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I came up with that. Yep, thank
See,
you.
I knew that, Sean.
I know you were saying that jokingly, but I mean, you have been a pretty big supporter of this, so I don't want to minimize.
I've been a supporter of y'all's working efforts and plans. That's all I've
Yeah,
supported.
it's phenomenal. Thank
It
you.
is. Yeah, it really is. Yeah.
I'll just share, I mean, Lauren's you just celebrated your 1 year anniversary.
Yes,
Has it been that long?
last week, yes.
Wow.
And so, when I mean, within weeks after Lauren joined the team, she attended a, training event with our Southeast region. So that was a lot of attendees were finance directors from other regional councils from across the Southeast, the United States. And she was quizzing people on, what's the system that you use and what do you like about it? And I would say the vast majority of people said, I don't like the system. It doesn't serve us well. And she said, why haven't you made a move? And they said, it's too hard. And so I think, we were talking last week, and had we waited for Lauren to be with the agency longer, she may have well been in that same situation where the rigor of running the organization in QuickBooks and
Yeah.
with Elizabeth coming on the team, and I'm seeing your facial expression right now. I mean, it's like there are too many things to do, and there's not enough time to be able to pull out and say, we've got to really move to a new system. So
Yeah.
I'm really grateful that the board was so supportive of this expenditure, and we got a grant to offset a large amount of costs, and the CVTA has contributed. And I mean, this is going to be game changing for us.
Yeah, it is no minor undertaking, but it is a major asset for the organization. So,
And we've already had 3 other PDCs reach out
mhm.
and want to know more. So this could be really excited about what it's going to do here for sure. It could also be a sector play. This particular
Mm.
software, I think, could really be a positive move for the sector.
Okay.
Okay.
Sean
Dave
has bounced off.
is gone.
Oh, there he is again.
Okay. Oh, he's just switching devices, looks like.
I just
Okay.
don't want anything.
Are you gonna talk about audit?
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry.
Yes.
That's one of the other strategic.
Yes.
Are we going in sequence here of the agenda? Or I'm fine going off.
We're
Want to make sure we cover it.
Yes, thank you. It's part of that strategic financial
Right.
planning bullet. I apologize. Thank you, Ms. Schickel, for reminding me. We are, as we talked about at our last meeting, where we had our fiscal year 25 audit presented to this committee. We talked with the committee about just timing of best practice of looking at looking to do an RFP for audit services. And so we are also, at the end of this week, planning to issue an RFP for an audit firm to do audit services beginning with fiscal year 26, our current fiscal year. And so some of the things that we talked about at our last meeting, we've incorporated into that RFP in terms of, a thought partner, really modern technology for file sharing, audit approach and audit scope, someone that's got a lot of experience with our type of agency. And so we've embedded all that into the RFP, and we will plan to issue that at the end of this week. If there's interest and capacity from the committee, we invite the committee to include someone on the selection committee, either from this committee or from the executive committee. It's not a requirement, but if it's something that the committee would like to consider, we could do that.
Chair Davis?
Yeah, I think it's great to consider. I think somebody should be there. I don't, I'm not sure who it would be. I think that could be a number of people, but yeah, I think it's a great idea. And whoever wants to is free to do that. Sure.
Can I make a suggestion?
Please.
Remind
Sure.
me, so we're gonna release the RFP on Friday and it's due March
9th.
So proposals would be due March 9th. We could inform the committee members of what the response is then, and then give the invitation for the timeline and
Process.
yeah, I mean, there is a timeline that I think Elizabeth has mapped out for this process. But some of it's dependent on how many proposals we get in. And so we could let you all know, and then that could help inform committee members about what their capacity is at that time to
Join.
participate.
It's a great idea.
Yeah.
And I think there's, at minimum, we'd love to keep at least the chair, I think. And if not, all three members of the committee, and our board chair informed of how many and who submitted. Steps are, when the interviews are scheduled, et cetera, so that can, be as transparent a process for you all as possible.
Would be great.
We're planning to post it on the procurement site, but we're also planning to direct share with, I think we've got about 7 firms that we have contacts with and want to reach out to them directly to share the RFP with.
And I'll just share sort of outside of that process. I guess it would be helpful to know on the front end, because of the way that we've structured the RFP and the conversations we've had with the finance committee, that thought partnership component of the skill set of what a firm is bringing. I think maybe it's worthwhile to put on record that this is truly an invitation for any firm interested in working with us. This is not a performative act where we are going through the procurement process to do that, but we genuinely are looking for the right partner for us, given the growth in our organization and the direction that we're going. And my hope is that the board would be supportive of the budgetary implications should we have a firm that competitively prices the cost to engage with them. Is that
Makes sense.
acceptable? Do you have anything else?
That's it.
Chair Davis, just for your information, I was able to chat with Dr. Newbill before the meeting started about the pending legislation with the General Assembly and the budget amendment specific to funding for planning district commissions.
Yeah.
So she's aware of that and I think is awaiting information from me to provide talking points that our association has offered, that same information I provided to you earlier in the week with regard to talking points that may be useful should there be an occasion to talk to any of the senators or delegates that are participating in the respective House money committees.
Yeah, and so Dr. Newbill, Martha had talked to me about that, and I think Bill Wiley, there were a couple other folks. I guess my approach would be right now is that funding PDCs actually provides great benefit to the General Assembly because we handle a lot of work that they can kind of set it and forget it, if you will. It's like, well, we know what we're doing. We've got a history and a legacy. This is an easy thing to fund. And this provides a lot of things that we do. There's residual benefit, I guess, collective benefit to the locality, to the state, so these folks can, if you will, show up to the ribbon cuttings or get to communicate with their constituency that this has been done in their region. They can take credit for it if they want, but they didn't have to do the work. And so I think that, if they write the check and we go out there and operate like we've always operated, this is an easy thing to fund. I know if it came across my desk and I was down at the GAD, I'd be like, this is a no brainer. Let's say yes to that. And then we'll deal with all this other, clown show stuff that we have to deal with every year,
No, I don't know.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's local folks. Yeah, we have no idea.
Yes, yes, I understand fully. Yes, yes. Yeah, so I'm good with,
Appreciate your all's help with that.
yeah, possible follow-up conversation with Carr and with Quinn.
Thank you. Yeah, and we'll be, our state association convenes in conjunction with the VACO gathering every year. So our state association board and executive directors will be together on Thursday afternoon this week. And we'll presumably see some of our commissioners who participate in the VACO events that evening at the lunchtime legislative briefing or at the evening time social activity. So.
Okay. Anything else for the good of the order?
Not for me.
Chair Davis, anything
No.
else?
No, man. Thank you so much for chairing this meeting. And again, to Lauren and her team, to Martha, we're moving in the right direction. But we've got a lot of heavy lifting to do. But
Yeah,
I mean, the plan's in place, and now it's just the execution side. So really excited about that.
absolutely. Listen, thank you.
Thank
Be
you.
safe out there and